Hello and warm welcome the audience to New Generation Women, our YouTube channel, and this time also to the German podcast channel Echt and Ehrlich, one production for two channels. I come today for our guest, a very charming guest from the United States, and as known for his great love for Germany. I come with a white piece of paper with absolutely no notes, and specifically as a beginner's mind, because I didn't want to become, or I didn't want to be a knower. I wanted to come as a learner. And this is why I like to symbolically hand over this white piece of paper to you, William, and ask you to please introduce yourself to the audience in a few sentences.
Okay, all right. Well, I describe myself as an Uralt man. I'm in my 76th year, and I do have a deep theological love for German families and for all Germans. Some of you may have heard me say this love is a priori. It came to me before birth. It's been with me in a certain sense of maturity for a very long time, but I've had to be patient, more patient than what I've wanted to be, because you can't do anything before it's time. You have to wait for the right time.
Tell me. Yes.
And so even if you're only a year early,
Yes.
then things don't make sense.
Yes.
So I've often wondered if I would ever be able to use my gifts or my voice, because it seemed like it was such a long time. And every time that I would think Germany is now ready, they weren't ready. And so I feel that now is the right time. And so I'm hopeful that my words now will go into German hearts and not into German heads. So
I so know what you mean with timing. I was told I was, by that time, I was 38. And I was told, what I'm going to do. I was in California at that time. And I think now it's starting, it's 16 years later, that what I've been told, that this is supposed to be my talent and my gift to give also to the Northern European people, is now coming to blossom. But 16 years, I found this very unfair. And I think the time has a very different quality now. Things seem to be so speed up. So I love what you're saying. And we're talking a little bit about your background later, but let me just dive into right away when you say you love to touch the hearts of people and you hope not to just reach our heads, our minds. So when you say you love to touch our hearts, and this time we are at a very low point, the lockdown might get longer. It was supposed to be until February 1st, and it doesn't seem to have an end. We don't know when it has an end. And I think our spirit is so low right now, particularly for me, because I'm such a freedom lover. And things are not, the government or leadership doesn't reach our hearts and our humanness. They are just numbers. It is just like, this is what has to be done. This is what you do. And so many people get not just annoyed, but demotivated, almost depressed, and they start to be rebellious against the government. So in Northern Europe, in Netherlands, where I was born, also in Belgium and Denmark, people are going literally on the street right now and getting more harsh against the rules and regulations. So why do you think there is hope for Germany, where I am living in Germany at the moment? And I think of every country I could be in, but in Germany.
Yeah. There is a scientific coldness to the German government's relationship to their families. I honestly don't believe that Angela Merkel and her circle, and that's a very tight circle, she's not comfortable with people outside of that circle. But I honestly believe that they don't trust Germans with their future or with their freedom. I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that they think they are speaking to Germans, but there's a scientific coldness about it, and it's being received that way. Mm-hmm. So cynicism is growing in Germany in the past few years. A sense of hopelessness is growing in Germany. There's not fear that I'm going to be hurt, but there is a fear, an angst that you can see, and I see it in German women more than I do in men. It's like German women have more of a sense of things. Mm-hmm. And so I think the timing for you and your gifts, which are very considerable, by the way, but I think that the timing for both of us is almost perfect. Mm. We may have to be patient for a few more months before people can really listen and understand with their heart. Mm. And let me say something. I've been in and out of Germany frequently because I'm supposed to have my research expertise there, but there's 30,000 think tanks in Berlin alone filled with PhDs and brilliant people, okay? Mm-hmm. And they turn out massive amounts of paper every day. And now you add in the feuilleton sections of all the newspapers, and Germans are overwhelmed with noise. They're overwhelmed with voices. Yes. Using kompliziert, big phrases. Mm-hmm. We have the answers. This is the regression analysis, mm-hmm. and it's all wrong. Janine, they're speaking to the wrong. They're searching in the wrong places, and they're speaking to the wrong people because German families can't hear this. Yes. It's like a cacophony of noise, yes. And they have to push it away. Yes. They have to. We can't hear this. So this scientific coldness that comes out of Angela Merkel's inner circle, mm-hmm. is actually pushing Germans farther away from security and truth and freedom. Yes. And the circumstances are going to have to help us because it's too big a job for you to do. Yes. Even with all your gifts, it's way too big. Yes. And it's way too big for me. Yes. So when circumstances change, and they will change here over the next few months, that change will be in a way that it changes perspectives. Mm-hmm. And when it changes perspectives, it will start working on a German word that's somewhat banned today, and that is a Weltanschauung. It's people will start seeing themselves differently, mm-hmm. and the world around them differently, and they'll start asking different questions. Most Germans today don't even know what questions to ask of you or of me. That's how great the confusion is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I so agree what you say. I love what you say. Just repeat it again.
Scientific there's a scientific coldness.
Exactly. Cold, and I love that so much because I think when you talk about the government and the circle around Angela Merkel, and I ask you about the inhumanist or the not human leadership that is at the moment taking lead. And then I have worked so many years with the economy where we taught leaders to be human, where we taught leaders to approach people on a heart level so that they have people who are following and are motivated to follow them and maybe also go the extra mile. So I talked with some people in Sweden, in Switzerland, and also in Netherlands and in California, in Mexico. And things are, of course, globally tough. So we all go through this really rough challenge right now. But it feels to me, and maybe because I'm living here, maybe because I always had a question mark around Germany, it feels as if it's extra tough here because of people are so eager and almost obsessed to follow the rules. Now, how do you see that?
It makes me sad. There's an inner sadness. Mm. And it almost makes me feel indignant in a way that the leadership, those who are supposed to be taking care of German families, and bringing them into truth and calming them and assuring them it's not there. So, but it takes, in order, what you spoke about, the bringing of a humanness in, that's a risk. And it takes, you have to be vulnerable in order to do that, because they have to see it in you. It has to be real. People in Mexico, in California, in Netherlands, and in Russia, they're seeking something that's real. And that means a person who is willing to be at risk. Okay. And they're not finding that. What they're finding in their leaders, and what they're finding even sometimes in the groups, that their corporations and in groups, is that people are only posturing. They're only about perception. They're only about, what do people think about me? And they're not willing to take the risk of being open and opening their heart. And what makes it, in Germany, there is actually a protective mechanism that is built into your school system and built into your psyche that makes you even more protective. And that's why the cynicism, I was just in Berlin, and you can sense it in the air, this deal of, of hopelessness, and this deal of cynicism. And people don't share their feelings in Germany. They keep their feelings very close to their own heart, but you can sense these things. And it makes me very, very sad.
It's so wonderful. I mean, it is not a wonderful fact, but it's so wonderful to feel seen and to feel heard, because sensitive people do feel it here. And my girlfriend just went for vacation and to visit her husband in Mexico. And she said, gosh, Janine, I just couldn't stand the heaviness in Germany anymore. It was like a layer that was on me. And I feel a little bit the same. And I'm very lucky, hopefully, if everything works out, to be in Mexico myself in March. But I also I feel like almost I have to run away to breathe freely and deeply again. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not open to, that's why I said I come with a white piece of paper. I'm not open to have a different perception on Germany. I'm not open to forgive. And I think that there is also so much, like there was a spirit, and that still, of course, is inherent in us. It's a spirit of, Goethe and Schiller and Lessing. There's a spirit of art, of intuition. I remember that I had an interview with a very intuitive man, and he was a scientist. And I talked about California and the intuitive, open, spiritual people. And he said, you come from Germany, you have the poets. And I said, yeah, but it is so undercover. It is so not accepted that you come open and talk about it. And I said, what happened to Germany that we got so intellectual, that we got so mindy and heady, that humanness got so lost, that people are so afraid to open up and to be vulnerable and hide their feelings, and that the academic is so supported, while the art and the spirit that originally is also our strength, it just feels like it was never there. What happened, William?
Well, we all know, those of us who love Germany all know the names, the Goethe, Schelling, Lessing, and we know the musical names, and we know the scientific names, and we understand that in the German Seele, in the German spirit, there is a genius, there is a creativity, there is an initiative. But what we don't know is how deep and broad that is when Germans are themselves. It's not only the famous names, it's millions of Germans who have who have had and do have these traits. Names we don't even know, who were brilliant and in literature and in poetry and in science and in music and in being able to use the beauty of the German language, one of the finest languages in the world, to express feelings and emotions precisely. You can't do that in English. It's impossible. So, and you are right. This is gone. It appears to be gone today. It appears that this has all been washed away. But this washing is a brainwashing, which means it's only at surface deep. It's in the mind, but it's not in the Deutsche Seele. It's not because that is deep
Mhm.
and it's eternal. It's in Ewigkeit, and it can't be touched. No matter how clever human beings are,
Yes.
it can't be touched. But it's driven deeper and deeper
Yes.
to where it can protect itself. And
Mhm.
so my job, my whole mission in life, the reason I was born is to let that Deutsche Seele come free. And you're going to, even you will be amazed at what is there. It's beautiful and it permeates all Germans. It's a part of being German, and it's been hidden. It's verstecken for
Yes.
a very long time. But that serves a lot of people's purposes. There are a lot of people who want to keep that Deutsche Herz and Deutsche Seele down,
Yes.
small and
Yes.
down.
Yes.
It benefits not only your leaders, but it benefits people all over the world. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I so understand you. And it's such a fresh air to listen to you and also like a lighthouse listening to you because I can absolutely resonate and sense what you're saying. I can so feel that you're living in America and your background is not that, you didn't study German philosophy. You taught here for a couple of years, so you know the German people. Or where do you think your knowledge comes from that you're so confident and so certain that the soul of Germany is going to blossom and it's just a matter of a few months that things are slowly or maybe hopefully quickly are going to change? Where does that confidence are coming from?
Well, it certainly doesn't come from any scientific expertise, and it doesn't come from any experts, and it doesn't come from any reading that I have done. Because, as you probably heard, my mother was English. She didn't like Germans at all,
Mhm.
and so and in the town I grew up in, I was born in 1945, and in the town I grew up in, there was no sympathy whatsoever for Germans. So I believe that this came with me in birth. And my wife and I've been married for 32 Jahre. We've been married for 32 years. But my
Congratulations.
mother told my wife when I proposed to her, my mother says, I have to warn you, you shouldn't marry this man because he's in love with German families. And that is like sick. That's weird. So be cautious. The power that I've been given, that when I'm with people in person, they recognize that. They talk
Exactly.
about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have to make sure that I give my life purely to German families and do not betray them because what I've been given is precious. It's freedom from guilt and freedom from shame and freedom from confusion. And it's freedom not for me, it's freedom so that German families can be free to be involved in their own future and choose their own leaders, which is an entirely different thing than they have today.
Absolutely.
Nobody would choose the government you have today
No.
if they felt free and happy.
Absolutely.
Nobody.
Absolutely what you're saying. And I like to pick up on what you said about the freedom of guilt and the freedom of shame. I don't know if it's possible. We do have some shadows, obviously, because of our past. And I said shortly in our email exchange that when I was living in California, um, a shaman, an Indian, a Native American woman said to me, "You have to start to forgive yourselves in Germany." And I said, if I would say this at that time, I was still in public radio service. If I would say this publicly, I would be fired. If I would say it's time for us to forgive our past, that doesn't mean, we pretend as nothing happened, but it means that we forgive and make good and that we are not in this guilt trap all the time. And this guilt trap, of course, makes us not being tall. And I'm not saying, tall in arrogance, but tall in our source, tall in our spirit. But I don't know if that's possible unless we are ready to forgive ourselves and work through that shadow. I think every culture has to work some part and transform some shadows in order that we move all forward globally and nationally and also individually. And for Germany, I think it is time to forgive our past. Do you think that German people would be ready? Are German people ready? or wouldn't be the government ready? Because it's also what you said, it's keeping us small. And maybe also the globe is not ready for that. Germany is starting to forgive the past.
Well, there is a strong sense in the world, and it's also in America, I'm afraid, that maybe there is something wrong in the German soul. There is a sense. There is a sense that if, and Margaret Thatcher talked about this openly with Helmut Kohl and with others. She said, we can't let Germany become unified because maybe the capital would move back to Berlin and certainly it would start all over again. That was Margaret Thatcher, okay?
Yes.
But most Germans believe that there could be, possibly be, something wrong in their soul. And if they were free and if they were happy, then, well, they don't know what would happen. So there's this uncertainty. And nobody outside of Germany would help Germans to work through this and understand it, because it doesn't suit anybody's interest. It doesn't suit America's interest. It doesn't suit Russia's interest. It doesn't suit the interest of even the French to have a happy, joyful, free Germany who all of a sudden is able to use all of their gifts and all of their potential. The world is actually still afraid of the Germans, the spirit, but that's not the problem. The problem is that many Germans have been made afraid of their own spirits. They're uncertain of what they're going to find. I've said that the greatest sin in Germany is not murder or rape or kidnapping. The greatest sin in Germany is to like Germans. It's the greatest sin in all of Germany, because if you shared the truth, you would have been fired from your job.
Yes.
Okay? Because the truth today causes people not just to be angry, but causes them to be wütend, beyond anger. They would look at you as if you were crazy, and they would not only fire you, but they would ostracize you from the society. So you would be silenced. So when I tell people about, when I talk to people about my love for Germans, they're suspicious of me, as if something could be wrong with me, because they feel that something is wrong with them.
Yes.
They don't deserve to be liked.
Yes.
They don't deserve to be loved. Okay? But this seed of doubt that is in every German, I call it a German disease. That seed did not come from inside, Janine. It came from outside. It was implanted into Germans from outside when they were the most vulnerable, okay? And it was inculcated into your education system, inculcated into your political system. It was built into the Constitution and the basic law. And it was made so permanent as if it were truth, but it wasn't truth. And so consequently, Germans today are kept schiefgelaufen. They're kept constantly off balance so that they can never feel free. And you see it, you sense it everywhere. But it didn't come from within the German soul. It came from outside, from people who did not ever want to deal with Germans again, and they made a decision that psychologically they would cause mind games to take place continually, and they would never end. They would go generation after generation, and they would deepen so that no one could find a thread of truth any longer. They couldn't find it. And that's what has happened today. My German college students don't even know where to start. They don't even know what the problem is. They only have an uneasy feeling in them, and that's it. Okay? That's what has to come to a halt.
Why do you feel that Germany is so important for the global evolution and the progress? You said it specifically in The Perfect Storm with Uta Ogilvy, which was a very beautiful interview. That's how so many people got to know you. And it was so surprisingly positive. And you said it's so important. We have values, and those values are so important, and maybe also the reason that we are kept small in Germany, because people are afraid of it, or they don't want us to grow, so that we don't grow in our strength, because that would mean that there's some power. And I always say the power from divinity, the power from our humbleness, where we can grow in a real big strength. It's not the power from arrogance, but from the good for the whole. And you said Germany has that spirit to work for the good of the whole, and to be a strength, an anchor for the globe, which is so not in our experience right now, in particular in this really hard lockdown phase. What, again, do you see needs to happen, and why do you feel so confident that we are so important in a positive way for the globe?
You are important in a positive way because you have exactly the right skills when you are German, when you are yourselves, okay? You have exactly the right skill set that the world needs. You know, we are withdrawing from the world. This is the American flag. I'm a patriotic American, okay?
Yes.
But we are withdrawing from the world. We have no choice. It will take us a decade to solve the deep, deep problems and sort out who we are and who do we want to be. During that time, we're not going to be able to take care of the world as the world's policeman. Now, Germany is not going to be the world's policeman, but Germany has exactly the right skill set. Every German has built within them a social responsibility that has came from 5 years old and 7 years old of watching Holocaust movies and being told how guilty they are. Well, that has a bad side, but it also has a wonderful side, and that is Germans have a social responsibility in them that other people don't have. It's not there. They don't know even how to describe it because it doesn't exist in them. So the Germans have this. And then you take and put on top of that the German mind, which is an amazing mind. It's a mind who's constantly asking good questions. Was steckt dahinter? Wie ist wirklich wahr? Wie ist eigentlich gewesen ist? Germans want to know about the depth of things. They want things to be precise and concrete. That's exactly the skills that the world is going to need. We are no good at that. We are powerful. We have huge military power. We have 8 nuclear fleets going around the world. We are more powerful than everyone else put together, but we don't have the kind of skills that the world needs in order to grow, in order to learn, in order to be able to care for themselves. You have the perfect systems, you have the perfect model, you have a worldwide infrastructure, and you've got massive brain power, and none of it is being used today. Your leaders are keeping you small, they're keeping you down, and they like it because you're easy to control, you cause no trouble, you're obedient, and you don't ask difficult questions, which means the lie can stay as a lie. But the world, there's 2.5 billion people who need you right this very moment. And,
yes.
and you're robbing them. You're robbing them of everything that you have. You're stealing from them.
I so like this perspective that you say. It's not that you go out there and you arrogantly present your skills, but it's like a kind of a gift that you have. That's your responsibility to give it and share it with the world. I think everybody has that. Every country and culture has this. This is what I love about the global part, and also about standing tall in your national strength. And we never stood, since I'm born, I never stood strong in my pride, being, mostly I have been my upbringing has been in Germany. So I was happy that I could say I was born in the Netherlands. And I know that there was some kind of pride in the World Football Championship when 2010 and 2014, people and the football players were so passionate, and there was a fair play, and people start to bond and come together in public viewings because there was a passion. It was just a passion that was keeping us together. So I don't think that we can through the strong regulations, and they're getting stronger, and people get more harsher, and we are not living in a democracy right now. It feels so being in a wrong movie that you almost feel like you're living in dictatorship, and we have such a hard time. Those who are not going with the regulation right now have such a hard time to accept that, and it doesn't feel healthy. But we cannot fight against it. It doesn't help if we're aggressive. It didn't help when we had demonstrations, the big demonstrations happening in May and in August in Berlin. So how can we leave this bubble of destruction and destructive behavior? I would love that we have something like a world championship, a football championship, where there is passion, where there's different light, where there's a game where we could come together in a lighter spirit. What is your vision or your feeling, your gut feeling, how we could leave this bubble of smallness and of destructive behavior, where we move that power that we have outside of us and forward and into something that is for the good of the whole and for the good of the country? Mm-hmm. What do you feel is the next step for that?
That's a wonderful question. But just like brainwashing is only surface deep, things like sports. I was in Germany when you won the World Cup, and you beat the English 4-0, and you beat the Brazilians, and you beat. I mean, it was amazing. You could feel the energy all over Germany, and every apartment had a German flag, and cars had a German flags on the deals, and everyone was honking and hugging. It was beautiful. But sports doesn't last. Events don't last. You can have a great rock concert and everyone feels like they're in heaven, but they're not, because you have to walk out and there's the streets again. So what's going to happen is that the circumstances themselves have to change so that people can no longer see things the same way. And that's what you've been waiting for. And that's what I've been waiting for. So the World Cup and this and we have great hope because now we have Donald Trump. And so he's going to save us. None of these things are going to save us. Okay.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
All right. So circumstances have to change, and they will change over the next 3 or 4 months. There will be a series of events, not one event, but a series of events. Like you have a wind coming from the northwest, and you have another wind that's coming. By themselves, they don't do much. This wind passes through, fine, you have a little storm. This wind passes through, fine, you have a pretty sky. But when you have 3 major winds and they converge together at about the same time, you have a perfect storm. And things change. They change dramatically. And people all of a sudden are starting, their eyes are open. They're awake. When I say Germany is robbing the world, I have lived on the economy in Germany, probably out of the last 7 years, maybe 2 full years, okay, at different times. Yes. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where Germans, because they're kept down, because they're kept small, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're off to the monkey bar. Okay, I'm serious. They have become addicted to an easy life. They have become addicted to the fact that no one treats them like adults. They're treated like children. So they act like children, and they have become addicted to the fact that someone else is going to solve their problems, and they don't have to take responsibility. Well, this perfect storm will make that addiction look foolish to them. Okay? Because all of a sudden Germans are going to realize, wait a minute, there is so much in me that wants to get out. And it's exactly what the world is desperate for. And you don't have to worry about power anymore in Germany. I have hundreds of German friends. Not one of them would hurt a fly, Janine. They wouldn't hurt a fly. They wouldn't hurt a puppy. They wouldn't hurt anything, let alone a human being. Germans will go out as servants. Doctors and teachers and normal people will go into dangerous situations because they are German, because it's already in their heart. But they have to stand up tall, and they have to take responsibility for their own life, and they have to have strength, inner strength. Okay. And they don't have it today. That means the leadership has to go away. Not only Angela Merkel, but also those around her who are inculcated with her ideas. And that includes von der Leyen in Brussels. Okay. These are people who are inculcated with the same spirit, and that is a dominant spirit.
You
Okay.
said, yes, absolutely. I absolutely understand what you're talking about. You said that what you foresee that we are having a change coming politically in spring. And of course, when you say, it's about the people, that the people are remembering again about the strengths and taking their own leadership and go out with the qualities they do have. Now, I remember that when I was very sick, of course, I would always listen to the doctors and they would tell me what to do. It was a time when I was so hitting bottom that I said, either you die because this is not a life, this is not an option, or you go back and back into dancing, into living, into living your power. But it was when I stopped following what doctors and leaders told me in order to be healthy again and starting to follow my own gut feeling that made me really healthy. So for me, it was taking on my own leadership, which was the scariest thing ever, because of course you feel like it's almost, you feel in this dark hole, and suddenly when you fall and fall and fall, and I can guarantee this to every person, suddenly there's almost like a hand holding you and lifting you up. And that's where the strength is coming from. And that's where the wisdom and the leadership is coming from. So what kind of leadership do we need? And hopefully coming in spring, which is soon, seems far away, but it isn't. What kind of leadership do we need in order to remember our inherent strength, in order to really step into our power?
Yeah. Well, you talked about all the doctors who tried to help you.
Yes.
And America is, and especially California, is full of psychiatrists and doctors and psychoanalysts of every. I mean, there are millions of them, not thousands. There are millions of them, and they all have wonderful ideas. Yes. But you know what the best idea is? The best idea is love. The best idea is a cuddle. Someone who holds you, who really cares about you, and you can feel that. You don't need psychiatrists. What people need is to feel loved, and they need to feel accepted. Okay. And so what are the new leaders going to look like? They're going to be people who have a deep, tearful heart with tears for German families. But not only for the German families that are there today that they see, but they also are going to have a deep love for Germans, babies that aren't even born yet. German babies that will be born 10 years from now, or born long after that leader is gone from this earth. And that people can sense that. It's the same as a hug, a wonderful hug. You feel it and you say, this person won't betray me. They trust me. They love me as a German, as I am. They don't want to change me into something else. They love me because I am as I am. But they not only love me, they also love my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And when Germans start to hear that and feel it and sense it, that's who they will put in leadership, not the gang that's there today. I don't even think Angela Merkel has a policy for Germany.
Absolutely, I totally see the same way, William. Do you feel? I mean, I have been working in economy for so long. I've been with top managers and CEO of very big brands that everybody knows, and I know that how the system works, and I know how far I could get in the system as a woman, also, of course, which was not so easy. Keeping my heart and keeping my wisdom and not becoming very masculine as a woman, which was really important for me. And also, this is what I want to give further to other women in being in leadership positions. But what my question is, can there be people already in spring coming forward? Because we always would look that we do something different as grassroots movements, always under the radar. It was always, oh, don't tell them, don't tell the CEO, don't tell top managements. Let us find ways under their, radar where we can find ways to empower and to do something new, be innovative. but we had to do it in small circles and not within the system. Also, I know so many wonderful people who say they don't want to be in the system anymore because there's no freedom and no power in the system, which is kind of the old system. And I also saw a big company approaching us to work with them. And I said to my partner, look, I honor that, but it's still the same. As long as they're still not trying or still not ready to change their consciousness, we are trying to do something new and innovative, always in an old system. And that always comes to the same result again and again and again. So is this possible that in spring, let's stay with spring because it's something that we can grasp and hope for, that people can come forward and leaders can come forward who have an honest heart for humanity, for Germans in particular, because there's some healing needed so that we can come forward into our strength. Can this be a person in this time? Can this be someone outside of the system who comes forward? Because in the system, like it is now, I don't think that somebody can survive. I don't think that somebody can move forward and be seen without, being stopped right away, because in the system, the new is not blossoming right now. Or do I have a wrong perspective on that? Is this too negative?
No, you don't have a wrong perspective. But, all you have to do is take a look at all of the political parties that we know about in Germany and look at their youth leadership. And you'll see that there's no leadership there at all.
Yes.
Because the system cannot produce the kind of people that the families desperately need. It can't do it. The system itself squashes the heart and the beauty, and it squashes the very things that people are looking for. So there's this disconnect. And the disconnect continues to grow. You talk about a black hole. This is a vacuum between leaders and people that cannot be healed. Okay. That's why German families have this sense of hopelessness. Just go along to get along. We'll just survive. We are surviving okay, and that's good enough.
Yes.
Well, Janine, it's not good enough.
No, absolutely not.
You know as well as I do, it's not good enough.
Absolutely
and
not.
We've got a whole nation of people whose mouths are saying words that their heart knows are untrue. We got a whole nation of people saying words. See, you can make anyone say anything you want them to say, because you can coerce them, you can fine them, you can have political correctness on top of them, but that doesn't help because the words don't resonate. They go into the top of the head and they stay there and they never get anywhere near the heart. But remember, the German people haven't wanted to open their heart. So they are co-complicit in a way with a leadership who wants them down.
Yes.
Because Germans have been addicted, listen to this, to being non-German.
Absolutely. I so agree.
They've been addicted to it.
Yes.
And they're told it's easy. Keep your mouth shut and everything will go on just like it is. And you will get through life. You will survive. You will get through life. You'll have safety nets. You'll have a nice retirement, and then you'll be buried in a grave. And that is what life is.
Yes.
That's not what life is.
Absolutely.
They're being deceived. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. As I always say, they are numbed, and then of course people are getting numbed, and then they accept lots more of what's happening right now. Yes, and right. Safety had such a high price that over time, of course, you just, you give your liveliness away, you give your power away. And as you said, it's not about surviving, it's about living. So for me, my 3 cornerstones right now, and I have my really downs because I'm such a freedom lover, and this is so not in resonance what's happening outside. So I have a hard time to keep up my spirit. But there's 3 cornerstones that I have, and I wonder when I'm sharing mine, which are yours. One of mine is to individually transform my kind of, topics so that I get more and more into my power and step out of my smallness and get into my strength that comes from within. And then the second is finding and co-creating a community where we come together in a like-mindedness and we spread light within, and we spread light as much as we can as lighthouses and as integral as we can for the people who are ready to go along with us. And then the third cornerstone is, I don't want to say you pray to God, but it's really the hope for divine intervention. That there is, sometimes I feel like when I'm down, I feel like, how can this ever finish? Where can ever be a solution coming that ends this disaster and this nightmare in which we are all at the moment? And then when I'm really hopeful, I feel like, no, it's not you who's doing that. There is a divinity in us that will eventually come forward. Where do you feel and see the changes coming forward?
Well, first, let me tell you something. I have looked at your website. I have listened to your interviews, and let me tell you something. You are not going to miss anything. I don't care about accidents. I don't care about sickness. You are going to be at your peak at the very time that you are needed. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So you're not missing anything, and you haven't missed anything. Mm-hmm. So, but you are going to have to have courage.
Yes.
Now, when I run into courage in Germany today, it's almost always in women. It's almost never in men. Mm-hmm. Okay? You understand me?
Yes, I totally understand.
Okay.
I totally understand.
All right. So I think that in Germany, you talk about a cornerstone, it first is going to be women who sense things. They sense the perfect storm. They sense the meaning of the perfect storm. And for a while, it's going to have to be the courage that come from women who maybe nobody even knows their names today. All right. Mm-hmm. And, I was listening to someone's, it's just been so amazing how many people have sent me encouragement and sent me things and poems and things. And someone sent me a little video the other day of the simplest little song sang by a German, and it sounded like they were just sitting in their back porch singing, and somebody recorded it on an iPhone. And I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying. And it was a woman called Eine Deutsche Frau, that was her name. And she just had a guitar, and she wasn't great about anything, but she was simple. And she was singing a simple German song that she wrote. And Janine, I couldn't stop crying.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so women are going to have to stand up and take courage initially. Men will come along in German. Okay. German men will come along, but they don't even know what it's like to be a man. They don't know, because they're told that's all that's strong is always wrong. Yes. That's what they've been told since they were born. Yes. And so you have to act soft, and you have to talk soft. Mm-hmm. Well, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But there's also a time for everything. Yes. So at first, German women are going to have to take a much greater role.
Yes.
And that's going to be hard for them. Yes. And you're going to have to show them how to do it. Mm-hmm. Not as somebody who's over them, bossing them or talking down to them, but as somebody who's talking right straight to them. You're a woman talking to German women, and you're saying, like this simple little song from this woman. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, that little song will do more good than all of the PhDs in Germany talking at the same time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I so agree. Yes.
Yeah. And also, Germans are going to have to become spiritually strong again. I don't care how they find that. I really don't. I go up into my attic, into my secret room, and I get on my knees and I pray, God, show me what my motives are. Mm-hmm. Help me to find some, so I can say words that will work with other people. Don't let me fail. Don't let me betray these people. These are beautiful people, and they're open and they're sensitive, and don't let me hurt them in any way. Okay. But I don't care how people find the divine. I'm not a preacher. Okay. And I don't have all the answers. But I do know that the answer is in the love that I feel is where the answer will eventually come. Okay? That's where it will eventually come.
I so understand. And it almost makes me emotional, because I think we are so missing out on a pure heart, on people being vulnerable, talking their truth and their wisdom, and really meaning it. So when you talk, I can feel that you mean it. And I think that's also why people were, talking about you, and why the first interview that I saw from you with Uta got so viral and got so strong, because there's someone coming with a pure and honest heart and trying to motivate you, which we are so missing out on. So I love to end this interview with your words, because I think they do resonate in our hearts. I do pray for the timing. And it doesn't mean that I do pray to God, because I always, in Germany, it is so heavy loaded, the word God. But I always say to people, if you use God, or if you use your heart wisdom or your inherited strength, there is a source and a spirit in us that is just leading us. And hopefully it's leading us to our strength. Hopefully it brings us together with people like you. And it brings another lightness and another quality of life to us, that we maybe hopefully look back one day and say, William, do you remember that talk that we had in January in 2021? Wasn't it a horrible time? But boy, was that worth it. We needed that breakdown so that we could be living again and stop just being content or just survive, but stop surviving so that we could live purely and fully and lively again in unity and for ourselves globally and as a nation. Thank you so much, William, for this wonderful interview. And hopefully talk to you soon again. Hopefully we stay connected. And thank you again for being so patient with me while I had to postpone the interviews with having no internet in our new flat here. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Yes, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye, dear audience. Bye-bye.